Hi, I'm Jen. Welcome to PlayDate. Every month, I'm going to bring you some education about the skills of child-centered play therapy and teach you how you can use those skills in your own home with your own children. It is October of 2024 and Halloween is just around the corner. With spooky season just ahead, it's a perfect time to talk about fears. As adults, it's really hard to know what kids are scared of. I mean, there's the usual stuff. Our perspectives are just so different. In fact, our perspectives are sometimes not just different, they're just opposite. Kids are not afraid of the things that we're afraid of, and we're not afraid of the things that they're afraid of, most of the time. But if you think back to your own childhood, surely there's something that you remember that was so terrifying. When you look back on it now, it's not scary at all. In child-centered play therapy, we have the benefit of a child leading the way. We are not in a position to judge this fear or wonder whether or not it's normal or wonder why it's happening. All we have to do is accept it in the present moment, provide validation so that the child feels seen, heard, and understood, and an understanding that it's being brought up because this is something that a child might need help confronting. The next video is a short example of what it might look like when I'm showing unconditional positive regard in the playroom around a child's fear. I'm scared of snakes. I want you to hide this. Oh, that really scared you. You don't want to have this in the room with you. No fear will really go away until it's been met and examined one way or the other. When your child is afraid of something, it might feel really instinctual to say, it's going to be okay. You don't have to be afraid of that. Reassurance might feel good for you. Sometimes it might feel good for your child, but sometimes it's not what your child needs to hear. If you provide reassurance and you notice that your child is still fearful, try reflection. Reflection is just making a short statement of acknowledgement about what your child has said. Here's what it might look like in the playroom. You're worried that you won't be done on time. Your stuffy really makes you feel better. It's really hard to know what to do. You really tried hard. You are really taking such good care of that baby. You know how to make that baby feel so much better. How can this look at home? Very similar. You're not trying to talk your child out of their fears. You're just listening, providing validation, making sure that your child feels seen, heard, and understood. We can't underestimate the grounding power of feeling seen. Let's talk about imaginative play. Imaginative play is a place where kids process scary stuff all the time, even if a therapist isn't present. As adults, we can follow their lead and play along. We can serve as characters in their storylines and be a part of what they need to share. Here is what it might look like when a child is using imaginative play to process something scary in the playroom. These are the bad guys. You're setting all the bad guys up on that table. Hey, I'm gonna come over here and get ready to shoot them. Wait, handcuff them. Okay, let me try to get the handcuffs around all of them at once. While you do that, I am gonna get ready to get them. Okay, I got it. We're gonna get these guys together. You got them. Yes, are you sure? You can come check, but I think we got them all. When something is really scary, a kid might play that same storyline over and over and over until they figure something out in their mind. They might change the characters in the storyline. They might add some or take some away. They might change the setting of the storyline. They might change the ending. A play therapist is trained to play along, notice the themes, and use reflection to help them process this experience rather than get stuck in it. A parent can also play with their kids. There's nothing stopping you. If you let them lead the way, you're going to find out so much information, especially if you try to use some of the skills that we're talking about here. In the playroom, Structuring is used to begin and end a session. It's also used to provide information around the rules of the playroom and to make sure that the therapist stays in their role and the kid stays in their role. Let's think back to a few moments ago when I showed the video about the child working through a fear with imaginative play. That child was using the play to work through a feeling that they had to break through in order to feel like they conquered the monsters that they were afraid of. That's the child's plan, and it's a great plan, and it's a very bottoms-up approach. When you think about structuring, think about the fact that you, a parent, are your child's prefrontal cortex. You can use structuring to make a plan for how you're going to face these fears. You, the adult, the prefrontal cortex, might have to do some trials and errors and assessments along the way. Is this fear something that, like, a bedtime ritual is going to conquer? What skills does the child need to learn to put these fears to rest? Does your child need adult intervention to conquer this fear? Like, it's not something they're going to be able to do themselves. Are they going to need therapy to process this fear? Or are they going to need EMDR? You, as a parent, can use structuring as a way to help your child structure a response. Any response that is not ignoring it is going to give your child skills in their own life, how they are going to structure their responses to problems, not avoid them. This is going to give your children valuable tools in fighting their own fears. When we're helping our children fight fears, we need to stay in our roles as adults. Seeing somebody that you love be hurt and afraid is very triggering. We adults have a lot of resources to deal with that. We have other people in our lives. We can go for a drive. We're allowed to walk out of the house by ourselves. We have other choices besides falling apart. Us using our resources is also going to teach children to use their resources. Let's talk about limit setting. There are different ways that limit setting applies in helping your children through fears. Setting limits around your child's access to things that really scare them. Opportunities to explore scary things on the internet without parental supervision can be literally traumatizing for children. There's a lot of games out there and TV shows that look pretty cartoonish but are actually terrifying. Paying attention to what your child is watching and the media that they're consuming, watching it with them, helping them make sense of it versus just having it go through their own understanding of what everything means. Even overhearing the news too much can bring up a lot of anxiety. It's true today, and it's always been true. We don't have to keep secrets from our children, but we do need to help them understand the world in a way that's developmentally appropriate, and we need to help them learn how to set limits around doing things that raise their anxiety rather than lower it. That starts with us. Another place where limit setting comes up is the amount of attention that we give our fear and our anxiety. Fear needs to be seen, heard, and understood just as much as any other emotion, but some things are just always going to be scary. Having looping thoughts about that is just not really going to be helpful. Kids do need to learn that they can't control the future. They can't control the what if. The only thing that they have control over is themselves and the choices that they make around their fears and anxiety. Kids are going to need to learn how to set limits for themselves around those things. You helping them do that will help them learn how to do that. So when is it too much fear? Sometimes you do all of these things and a child's fear just does not go away. Here's some signs that it might be time to call for help. When a fear becomes obsessive, when it becomes something that a kid can't stop thinking about, the intrusive thoughts are not something that they can journal about or use breathing or yoga, none of that works. When the fears and anxiety get in the way of daily living, things that your child normally would want to do, they don't want to do anymore because some aspect of their fear might be present. They want to go on the field trip, but they don't want to ride in the car. A kid might have a panic attack. It could look like a meltdown or a tantrum or being hugely angry, but they could be in a state of like fight or flight. Their behavior in school might get a lot more disruptive. They might be unable to sit still and therefore create a lot of chaos. They might have nightmares. They might just withdraw in general. If you see any of those signs, don't be afraid to call a therapist. You can look on a website called psychologytoday.com and use the filter for play therapist and find a therapist in your area. If you're not looking for a play therapist, you can look up teen therapist. You can filter and find what you need. I am going to end with 2 book recommendations. These are both books that I feel really are in a line with how I approach treating children's fears in play therapy. The first one is called The Rabbit Listened. This is by Corey Doerfield, and it's about a boy who had something terrible happen to him. He had a lot of people trying to make him feel better, but it wasn't until the rabbit listened that he could finally move on. The second book is Right Now, I Am Brave by Dr. Daniela Owen. This book uses a mindfulness approach to help kids get grounded to face the things that they are afraid of. These books are geared toward younger children. I have used them both with kids up to 8th grade, and I think that the general concepts can apply when you're talking to teenagers or even adults. Thank you so much for tuning in to the October episode of PlayDate. We will be back next month talking about how you can take child-centered play therapy skills and use them in your own home with your own children. My name is Jen. I am the clinical director of the Redwood Center for Children and Family, and I will see you next month.